Hello everyone, I'm Austin Adams, here to tell you about the Newfarmon District Historical Society's plaques. In cooperation with some other bodies, the Society has over the years sponsored a series of plaques. These honour historic locations within Newfarmon Tenerife. Newcomers to the area, such as myself, but perhaps some other old-timers too, haven't known about these plaques, and in particular haven't known exactly where they are. The walking tour that follows leads you to all the plaques in order. Here's a map with the plaque locations numbered. Route between the plaques, or you could just sit back and absorb them here. If you're going to do the walk with this talk guiding you from your phone, you can hit pause when you need to walk somewhere or when you want to read each plaque. If you're watching this on a computer, you could at any time hit pause and then zoom in on the plaque image to make it easier to read. The first section of 15 plaques is along the east side of the peninsula. It'll involve about 2 kilometres of level walking, so it's a 4-kilometre round trip if you're walking back. Plaque number 8, by the way, up at this. It involves an optional walk up steps and steep pathways. Note that each plaque has a number top right that links to the map. Let's start. We'll begin at the tram shelter facing Merthyr Road in the small triangular park at the intersection of Merthyr Road and Grey Street. Here's the shelter. You can see the plaque in front of it. And here's the plaque. As I said, you can hit pause in on the plaque to read it if you wish. A few steps to the east of the tram shelter towards the river is a plaque giving some history of the area. This plaque is duplicated on the wall at the riverfront entrance to the freshwater apartment block. Here's the plaque itself. From here, as you face the plaque, turn right and walk about 30 metres behind the tram shed where you'll find the Arbour Walk that starts from the bend in Grey Street. Here's a photograph of that area and you can see the plaque. Here's the Arbour Walk plaque, giving some history of this area. The Arbour Walk itself leads via Lamington Street to the powerhouse, but we're not going there now. After you've enjoyed the lovely grove of trees and the plaque, turn back to Merthyr Road, then turn right to the waterfront boardwalk. When you get to the waterfront, turn left and walk about 100 metres past the 4 buildings of the One Macquarie apartment complex. When you get to the point where the boardwalk opens out, stop, look back and you'll see this. Here's that plaque giving the story of the area now occupied by the One Macquarie apartments and the associated waterfront area. Turn to the right and you'll see this. Take a short walk up to the top of the steps that are on the right. If you then turn back, this is what you'll see. The grey timber hut is known as the ferryman's hut, but unfortunately there's no associated historical information there. A web search leads to a photograph of this building. It's at 29 Macquarie Street here, with this comment and nothing more. I quote, "The ferryman's hut is a creative space for creative practitioners and is ideal for rehearsals, workshops, seminars, small meetings, photo shoots and creative developments." That's all we know. You can read the surrounding plaques about the Submariner's Walk. There's one plaque there, this one, down on the waterfront balustrade, that's sponsored by the Newfarmon District's Historical Society. It gives an overview of the US Navy operations in the area during World War II. Continue along the waterfront boardwalk. After about 150 metres, you'll reach the main display area for the Submariner's Walk. There are lots of historical plaques and commemorative flags there. There's also another copy of the previous Newfarmon History Society plaque about the US Navy operations. Just before the boardwalk opens up, raised up on the left, is this cafe. The cafe is housed in the building known as the New Farm Engine Room. Here's the plaque giving the history of the New Farm Engine Room. Walk to the top of the steps and look back. You'll see this. There are two plaques, far left and far right. The one on the left is the second copy of the US Navy Submarine Operation and Maintenance Base plaque we mentioned earlier. On the right is a plaque commemorating trains, trams and Tenerife. Here's the trains, trams and Tenerife plaque. Stay up on Macquarie Street, cross the road and continue for 200 metres until you see this. The name Tenerife fell out of use and was only recently reinstated as a recognised suburb name, hence the lost and found mural alongside the steps. Note the Tenerife Village building on the right. If you're energetic and want to explore Tenerife Park and its plaque, go up these 24 steps, continue up Chermside Street, take the first left up Abercrombie Street just past the local access driveway, then right at the end take the 24 steps that are well hidden. Of course, if you're skipping that bit, you can just jump ahead 3 slides. This photo shows the path and steps at the end of Abercrombie Street. You can just see that other 24 or so steps right at the end. If the steps and steep climb are not for you, you can skip visiting the next plaque, although you might like to read it here. This is taken from the top entrance to Tenerife Park and shows where the plaque is. There's a path in the distance leading down to the main part of the park where there's a duplicate plaque. Here is that plaque. You could walk through the park and down, coming out on Beeston Street, and from there turn left back to here, the steps you started from. The next plaque is on the Tenerife Village apartment building you can see in the last photo. To see the plaque, walk a few steps further on to the 110 Macquarie Street entrance to the Tenerife Village building. The plaque is on the building to the left of the entrance. That same plaque is duplicated around the corner at the 55 Florence Street entrance to the building, as shown here. Here's the Tenerife Village plaque. Note, by the way, that at the Florence Street junction, the road changes name from Macquarie Street to Vernon Terrace. Continue 100 metres until just before Ethel Street at 36 Vernon Terrace, you'll see the entrance to London Woolstore Apartments. Here's the next plaque in front of the London Woolstore Apartments. It tells the history of the building. This is that plaque. Continue along Vernon Terrace, cross Ethel Street, and just before Dath Street you'll see a coffee shop with the next plaque in front of it. This photo shows the location of that next plaque. The plaque tells the story of Winchcombe Carson Limited's Woolstore building that's behind it. From here, continue a few steps across Dath Street to the Cannery apartment building. Here's the next plaque on Vernon Terrace at the entrance to the Cannery apartment building. Here's the plaque giving the history of the Cannery building. From here, turn around and carefully cross Vernon Terrace itself. Take a few steps to your right and take the walkway next to McTaggart's apartments. The pathway leads to a waterfront park where you will find this. It's the famous Gloria and Gerard sculpture. Here's the plaque of the Gloria and Gerard sculpture. From here, stay on the waterfront boardwalk and continue 100 metres downriver to the Tenerife ferry terminal. Here's the Tenerife ferry terminal. Notice the plaque on the right. This is the plaque telling the story of the Bulimba ferry which crossed the river from here. Back then, both sides of the river were part of Bulimba. This part of the tour ends with a 500-metre walk up Commercial Road. When you're at the ferry terminal, turn around to look up Commercial Road. This is what you'll see. Walk up to the intersection, cross Vernon Terrace, then continue up Commercial Road and around to the right to the building occupying the entire block between Small and Arthur Streets. This is that building, now named Tenerife Apartments. This is the entrance at 85 Commercial Road. There's one copy of its plaque next to this entrance. But the official address of the building is 241 Arthur Street, around the corner, where there is another copy of the plaque. Here's the plaque. It gives details of the history of this wool store. From here, we'll have to walk back to our start and perhaps do the rest of the tour by car. The next section takes us to some plaques not readily linked together in a walk, but they're all within the peninsula and readily accessible to any keen walker. The first of these is the New Farm Park's bandstand, prominent within the New Farm Park near the river. Notice the plaque in front of it. We should add that there are other historical plaques and markers in the area that have been put up by the Brisbane City Council and others which you could explore. There's the powerhouse itself, of course, but there are also plaques at the far side of New Farm Park. Look also at the waterfront path behind the Merthyr Bowls Club on Oxlade Drive. But for the moment, here's the New Farm Park's bandstand plaque. The next plaque is at the imposing residence at 790 Brunswick Street, known as Weinberg. The plaque is at the entrance on the footpath to the right. Here's a photograph of Weinberg from the entrance. And here's the Weinberg plaque with the history of that building. A little further up Brunswick Street, on the other side of the road, opposite the end of Heel Street, is St Michael and All Angels Anglican Church. The plaque for this building is just inside the property and is easily seen from the footpath on the right. Here's the plaque for St Michael and All Angels. From here we go closer to the city and stop at Bowen Terrace at the top of the cliffs above Howard Smith Wharves. The spot we want is immediately adjacent to the top entrance of the southern cliff face lift. That area is Wilson's Outlook. Here's Wilson's Outlook. And here's the plaque at Wilson's Outlook. The final two plaques are close to each other on James Street, one each side of the New Farm State School. First we have Miss Midgley's at 135 James Street. Miss Midgley's is now upmarket accommodation. Miss Midgley's has a fascinating history as told on the plaque. A little further south, just past the State School at 142 James Street, is the Kingsholm Macedonian Orthodox Church. Here's the Kingsholm Macedonian Orthodox Church. The building started its life as the Kingsholm Methodist Church. The plaque is just inside the property boundary. You can see it on the right. Here's our final plaque, the one for the Kingsholm Macedonian Orthodox Church. That's all for now, but perhaps we'll have to revise this presentation in the not too distant future as more plaques are added. Very special thanks are due to local historian and Historical Society member Gerard Benjamin. Gerard not only did most of the research for these plaques, but he carefully crafted the wording and with his publishing skills executed the layout. Thank you, Gerard.